Forward. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our episode of Meet the Artist. Today, we're going to be speaking with Kurt Waldo, and I just had a brief little conversation with him, and now I'm super excited about all the very cool things I'm going to find out about him. So welcome, Kurt.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Zoom's not always fun, but it's a great method to record and get the information. And then I can always edit if, the need arises. So.
Okay.
All right. So now let's continue that conversation. I love what you were saying about that you have a lot of mediums, but you don't paint to sell. So you don't do your art to sell your art.
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's weird. It's like, it's something I do and maybe I could sell it, I think
you can't not do it.
Yeah, I cannot do it. Now the constructions that you see down at the studio, that's a different, down at the gallery, that's a kind of different process because that's kind of a craft thing. I mean, you do the design work and then you put it through a bunch of stages, right. And those stages aren't necessarily as creative as just painting. They're like things you have to do to make it look a certain way. Right. And in on that level, those are kind of set up to sell, but the paintings that I do, I'm kind of always doing it. And it's kind of like, I paint them, I put them up online, and then I just hope for the best, but then I go on to the next one. And it's a compulsion. It's a thing that, and for me, like lots of artists, the result is important. Like, the picture of the ocean or Morro Bay rock, that's what I want. I want to get it as perfect as I can, and that's fine. It's just not where I'm at. I'm more into the process. That's where I like the process of it. And once I'm done with a painting, it's like I don't have a whole lot of attachment to it, and so I can let it go pretty easily, and meaning I can give it away.
So you're the first artist who has said that to me, because that's how I feel about my art, is that the piece is beautiful, but when I'm done, I'm done. Like I'm done, and I actually don't feel like it belongs to me anymore, because for me, the process is what is for me. Right. And so once the piece is done, I don't feel like it belongs to me. So it should go somewhere else.
It's kind of dangerous to say this, but I could take them out and I could burn them in the parking lot. And that's kind of how, and also, like they're in a cardboard box. I have 300 of these things, and they're in a cardboard boxes. They're in cardboard boxes inside the studio. Is it really art? Because nobody's looking at it. It's in a cardboard box. So it's like.
So that was going to be my next question, and that was how. So why do you choose to put the pieces in the gallery versus these pieces?
Well, I'm trying to, I'm doing both things, and I have been in a lot of galleries with my paintings. So It's not, but they take up a lot of space. Okay. Right. And in that place, it's best to have
as many pieces as you can in your space.
Right. The small ones. And I'm trying to get people to interested in these things, because I think they're different. They stand out, and then there's not a whole lot of people doing this, and so I'm kind of thinking, well, it's something new, and maybe I can make some money. I'm retired, I need money, but it's more of just the joy of doing it, and the process is what I really enjoy. And I think it's weird. I've been trying to analyze it lately and try to figure out exactly what it is. At first it's an unconscious thing for me. It's kind of a connection. It's a spiritual maybe thing, if you want to use a cliche. It's like a connection where I'm doing things automatically, But then at some point it stops that, and you start to analyze, and you start to look at it, and you start to look at as a problem. You know, to me, it's a problem. When you get a piece of white paper, there's a problem, and you're going to solve it. You put a mark on it, then you, well, what makes it better? Another mark. Well, what makes that better? And you go on from there. Well, you're making those decisions. You know, you're making the decision to pick up a color, or you're picking up an instrument, you know, like a paintbrush or a crayon or something. So you're making that decision. So that's not a ethereal thing at all.
Unconscious, right?
Right. So you're consciously doing. And then when you start to get down to where I spend an awful lot of time looking at them. You know, I mean, I look at them a lot just to see what else it needs, or what is it done. You know, I might look at it for a week and finally decide I can't do anything more with this. And then bye-bye, I'll see you later. It's in the stack to go away and be sold or whatever happens to it. But it's out of my consciousness and I'm back onto a new piece, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at it. I'm a process guy.
I'm kind of a process person as well. It is, yeah.
You know, it's like I'd rather go, and the way I see it is I'd rather spend a day at the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art in New York City than a week at Disney World. I mean, I swear, to me that would be just, you know, it's like Christmas, you know, if I was to go do that, just because I love abstract art so much.
Right. And just looking and absorbing like all of that stuff, right?
Right. And then the abstract, to me, it really, you know, I compare it to like doing like having an analog watch versus a digital watch. When you have an analog watch, you have to look at it, and you have to look at it to see the time. You have to actually look at it, you know. With a digital watch, you glance at it, you know the time, whether you want to or not.
It tells you, yeah.
Right. And in a way, that's the way it is, like with artwork, that, you know, figurative versus abstract. Because when you go, you know, you walk into the kitchen and you see the painting of the woman with the vase and the flowers and the bunny or whatever it is, and that's what it is. That's always what it is. But if you see something is abstract, you see it. You can see it fresh every day, you know, whatever, or you don't even see it at all. You know, it can be just, you can be ignored. It's not blaring at you of what it is.
Right. So it requires engaging.
Yes. And to me, that's more exciting. I like that kind of thing better than just seeing something the way it always is. I really appreciate the talent and I mean, to doing
the work and the,
oh God, yeah, it's unbelievable. And I can really enjoy that, but it just doesn't turn me on.
Right. How long have you been doing art? Because it sounds to me like this has been a lifetime for you, but you obviously had a career and.
Yeah, I grew up in a family, a very liberal family. My father was blacklisted for his union activities in a teachers union in San Francisco area, and he couldn't get a job, so he moved to Santa Maria to get a job in a college, you know, to teach. He's a teacher. My parents were teachers. We went to Europe when I was 14 for 3 months. And with my father was a history teacher, so we went to all the history things and lots of museums and lots of art. And they also were abstract. They liked abstract art, so they had it up at our house.
Okay.
So I was really exposed to that very early, and so I you know, was like. And then one Christmas, my father bought me a painting set, you know, for Christmas. I think I was like 9 or something like that. And then from then I would paint. Then I went to college, and I got a degree in art. You know, and you know how far that goes, you know, right? Not very far, unless you teach or, you know, do something else.
Right.
Anyway, I got a degree in art, and I ended up like in Marin County. And I said, well, what am I going to do now? I had to support myself. So I ended up learning the offset printing trade by becoming a pressman. I was just a duplicator operator, and then I became a press operator. And then I graduated to managing places, and the places I managed turned out to be schools. It was education oriented. I worked for Dominican College in San Rafael. I went to College of Redwoods up in Eureka, and I finally ended up out in Maryland at the University of Maryland for
Wow.
21 years. And I was in the printing department there, and I was organizing print jobs. But in the process, I learned graphic art skills. I learned, page maker or whatever, at first page maker and then InDesign. I learned these things, and that's helped me extremely in my art career after this, because I can do my own advertising, I can do my own business, I can do everything myself graphically, and I take my own pictures, I can alter them, change them, I can crop, all that stuff. I know that already. And so to me, that's like an advantage to some of my artist friends. They're not computer literate, or they're scared of that kind of thing. And I don't have that problem, so my years of doing printing in the offset printing business, when I was in college, I did printing too. I was a split major between printing and painting, and most of it was like silk screens or etching. And I always liked printing because you never knew what it was going to be. Like you do an etching, you peel the paper off and you look at it and you go, wow, this is cool, because I didn't know what it was going to turn out to be. And I've always liked the surprise thing.
Right.
And in some levels, in some instances, that's the way it was in printing too, because offset printing, because you print on different colored paper, ink is going to react, look different on different kind of paper. When it's PMS color ink, it does. And over the years, I really enjoyed that business, being in printing. And then of course it imploded on itself. The printing business fell apart, and they don't need me anymore. I was a planner, they don't need to plan anymore. You're also, it changed too, because everything went to 4-color process pretty much.
Right.
And people were able to hold in their hand a proof that's going to look exactly like what they're going to get. And where's the surprise?
Right.
The surprise is gone now, for me. And sometimes they were pleasant, mostly they were pleasant surprises. Sometimes they weren't, but anyway, that was kind of a kick to do that. But it changed, and then I was laid off. 21 years of service at the University of Maryland, 4 years short of my full benefits.
Oh,
okay.
Bummer.
So and I lost. Let's see, I lost my job within 3 months. We lost our family dog. 2 days later, my mother dies in California, and she's 85. She doesn't just die of 85-year-old people die. She drowns in her swimming pool. And then I had a house in Maryland, and my wife, and all this fell apart. And I came back to where I was when I first started out. And actually, how some things they really appear to be really, really bad when they happen, but later on it kind of shows you where maybe it's okay, maybe that was a good thing. Some of this stuff happened, and that's kind of how I look at it now, because I'm kind of returned to my original self, and I'm doing the painting.
Right. It's funny how I feel like a lot of times we do that in life, right? We start out as our original self, and then through just the process of living, having to make a living, having a family, all of that kind of goes to the background. And then at a certain point, and maybe it's a different time for everybody, but it feels like there's always a coming back to who you were at the beginning, like how you came into the world, right? You came into this world with all this potential and these gifts, and then they got set aside to.
Well, you get into the routine of supporting a family. I have 3 children, and they went to college, and I got them through all that. But with all this, the stuff that happened, I think in 2011, 2010, 2011, I lost everything. So I don't have any property. I don't have any money. I don't have any, I don't have any retirement because I was retired early because they made me retire, basically. So I just survive on my Social Security and my art sales. That's what I do.
So you're like the starving artist.
That's right, exactly. Except I'm not starving, really. I've got quite a lot of heft around here. But yeah, it doesn't really matter a whole. Well, every once in a while I get kind of angry. Well, angry, just upset when
frustrated.
I see some guy driving around with gray hair like mine, and he's in a Porsche or something like that. And I'm going, gee, what chance have I? Whatever. I mean, but it boils down to doing what you love to do, and I love to do art. Don't do it all the time. Music's really important to me. I have a radio show that I do locally on the Rock, which is out of Morro Bay, and it's late 60s, 70s music, basically.
Yay.
It's on tonight, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, and occasionally people listen to it too. How about that? But the music's always been, and I think that might even be one of the reasons why I'm in art at all, is because of music, because I can listen to it while I do what I do. And
yeah.
So,
it plays, I think that it plays a part too in what the end result of the art is, right? Is kind of that energy that the music brings to the moment, right?
Yeah, I've done some paintings where I was really into Joni Mitchell, and so I did a couple paintings, very large paintings. There were about a song that she did called "The Sire of Sorrows." I don't know if you've ever heard that song.
I am sure that I have. I don't recognize the name, but I'm terrible at that. So
it's Job's story from the Bible, essentially.
Okay.
But she's relating it to herself. So it's like she's kind of Job, and then she's talking, she's singing about that stuff. But anyway, I did a couple paintings just specifically from that song. But usually it's just I just listen to music and do whatever I'm going to do.
Right. So that was fun. Yeah. I've never done that before, but it sounds like a kind of a cool challenge would just be to pick a piece of music,
play it over and over and over again,
and just create a piece around that music. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're online, right? You have a website online. Can I ask you a question? How do you ship your paintings?
Well, I do my work on paper.
Oh.
I do it on it's actually printing paper.
Okay.
It's printer's paper. It's 100% rag, so it's very stable, high quality paper, right? And I use Canson, and it's less expensive than Reeves or BFK, and it's about $3 a sheet, something like that, in bulk. And that way I can say through Etsy, that's where I sell.
Okay.
I roll it up in a tube and send it.
Nice.
So I can give them a shipping price that's standard. I just pick the farthest place in the United States, and I charge that for every one I send. Okay. So it's like $20 to send.
Right.
Whatever, and if it's 25 or 20, I don't.
Right, because it's going to balance out.
But it works out so where I don't have to deal with that. Now the pieces I have sold that are on canvas, and I've sold some on board too. And I could tell you some stories about that. Very expensive to ship, depending on how careful they want it done. But I have shipped things across the country to New York and Connecticut, and different places that, but it's so much easier to roll it up in a tube. Now, the problem is when it gets there, they got to do something with it. They got to put it in a frame. They got to put it, so that's the other side of the problem.
Right.
Whereas a canvas, you might even be just able to hang it. That's what I do. Don't even put it in a frame, just poof on the wall,
Right.
So there's advantages and disadvantages, but for me, the shipping part isn't as bad that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's definitely an easier way, because I have people who ask me, that I need to put my stuff on a website or I need to sell my stuff. And I'm like, the shipping just seems to be like the thing that I do not want to deal with. I do not want to deal with.
What your pieces are. Tell me what your pieces are.
Most of my pieces are 3D and have some fragility to them. So shipping seems impossible.
They have to be created well.
Yeah. Well, it has to be shipped well. Here's a piece.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fragile. Well, that's really fragile.
Right. So,
how do you do that?
How do you ship it?
Yeah. Look, the stuff sticking up like that. Geez.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't. I don't know. I can't wrap my head. So if I were to put this on an Etsy store on my website and go, oh, come buy this, and somebody wants to buy it, I'd be all like, you gonna come pick it up?
Yeah. Well, another problem you have is being able to photograph it and have it come across as what it is.
Yeah, these pieces are really hard because they're clear and textured, and getting a photograph of them is super challenging. I'm not really a great photographer, so it's even more challenging for me.
That's the problem with the pieces down at the gallery. Really, that kind of work, when you take a photograph of it,
it doesn't show.
Yeah, right. So I don't really sell those on Etsy. I don't sell that. I sell it in person, but I don't bother because you really can't tell what it is, except for some of the big ones, because I have done those textured pieces 3 by 4 feet. Huge.
That'd be cool.
They're really nice, but they don't sell because they're so big. Artists like to do things big, but lots of people can't afford the wall space, and so there's a problem there where you might think, I have a lot of big pieces, but they don't go very fast because of that, I think.
And that makes sense. Even when I'm thinking about my wall space, the availability of space, I live in a 100-year-old house, and so it's not the same kind of space as maybe a current modern home would be, where they have big expansive walls, like these houses are very cut up, right? You have a separate living room and a separate dining room and a separate, so really I have one wall in my dining room that would be open to a big piece, and then maybe in my bedroom above my bed would be a big piece. Like that's it. Like that would be it for large pieces. So I can see how that interferes.
I live in a very, very small studio place. My bed comes out of the wall.
Oh, a fun Murphy bed.
A Murphy bed. So it's very small. And then I have my studio separate down in Baywood on 2nd Street. And it's interesting, because for a while I was living in a house and I had a garage to paint in. And I could go in there, paint for 15 minutes and leave and do the rest of my day, come back to, another 15 minutes, whatever, just leave it there, come back. And it's a different scene when you have a place that you actually go to do your work. You go there and you spend hours there rather than just darting in, darting out, so you get a different result too.
I was going to say, I can imagine, because that time is specific and intentional.
Right.
Since I'm a hairdresser, so since COVID, I moved my salon to inside the house. So now And I got it fully licensed and all that stuff, but it's right next door to my art studio. Right.
Ah,
So now it's like, it's all creative, right? I'm doing hair, I'm painting hair, I'm cutting, I'm sculpting hair. And then I'm like, ooh, I need to, and I'll step in the studio in between clients and work on a little thing. And, but spending time in the studio intentionally can often be a challenge because it's at home, right? And there's just a lot to do here.
yeah.
So I love the idea of having a separate space. And I would like to, even if it was just for a day, to rent a space just to go in and just 100% focus.
Well, it's kind of become kind of my living room too, because my small space is so small. I go down there and hang out and listen to music and whatever, You used to have a couch in the studio just for people to come and sit and have a conversation or whatever, but I lost some storage space, so I had to bring pieces back and I had to get rid of the couch because there's not enough room. It's pretty small. It's like an office space.
Okay.
So it's
Right.
it's pretty small.
Yeah.
And, I wish I had a bigger space, but bigger space is expensive,
Right.
So
Do you have good lighting in there?
Yeah, I have good lighting. It's not natural light though, because it's faced the wrong direction, unfortunately, from the light coming through the windows, but I do have lighting.
Good.
And that is another thing too, is I haven't pinpointed that lighting when you're photographing things is a little more difficult and complex, So I'm working on that. I like to use a combination of fluorescent and incandescent because I think blue light and yellow light together make it like daylight,
Right.
I think there are lights you can get that are totally daylight, but I think they're pretty expensive.
Yeah, and I feel like they're still a little on the cool side.
Uh-huh.
Right? When they say daylight, like I still feel like they're still a little bit on the cool side, where I feel like maybe they should be on a little more on the warm side.
Yeah. So I have there's some track lighting, and there's also some those heat lamp lights that I have on, and I've used I used a coat rack, one of those stands, and then I attach the lights to that so I can move it around.
Nice.
And that actually works really well.
Yeah.
But boy, it makes me want to go there right now and start painting.
Yay, see? And you can because you're retired. So yay you that you have that freedom.
I'd rather be painting than working.
That's for sure.
So I'll stay poor and paint.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's always hope that one of those paintings will sell. That's
right,
good.
and create a little bit of extra cash flow. And
what I've learned though over time is I don't expect it. That way, when it does, it's a really big deal.
Right.
But I don't expect anything when I show in those places. I really don't.
How do you go about pricing your pieces?
That's a good question. For my paintings, for the paintings on paper, online they're like $400, $500 a piece.
Okay.
If you walked into my studio, they'd be $200 a piece.
Okay.
And if I hang them in the gallery, they're $800 to $1,200 a piece. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I've gone back and forth about reducing the price and making them more expensive. I mean, boy, that's a hard one to do, because, obviously you probably have run into this too, where if you price it too low, you don't get any response either, or your response is too high, nobody's going to buy it. So it's kind of someplace in the middle somewhere.
It is.
And you kind of have to look at what else is going on around you.
Sure.
Now, I happen to believe that the artists, we really don't compete against each other on our work. For our work doesn't compete. We compete for exposure.
Yeah.
We're competing for a wall to hang it on that somebody else can see it, because it's all about numbers. It's all about, the more people that you can get to see your work, the more chances somebody's going to like it.
Correct.
And they're going to buy it. And so
Right.
that's all that it's about. And so we you know, as artists, we kind of shift and pull and do what we have to do to get our stuff seen. And of course, the internet's been great for me. There was some things that happened when I was still working in printing. I got laid off, and then I started to do these things on paper. So it was kind of I was doing huge pieces on masonite,
Oh,
and with modeling paste, I put a texture on it, and then I paint over it, and they were real ambiguous. They were real open and not, and you know, like just non-linear. They were very overall kind of paintings. And then I shifted to doing these smaller pieces on paper. Well, when I did that, a friend of mine told me about Etsy, so I decided to go on there. And when I went on there, I had like some really good things happen to me right away when I went on Etsy. I had a lady in New York City who found me, and she put me on the set of Gossip Girl. It was, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a terrible show, but my pieces are in it. You know what I mean?
right.
And she bought some of my work for that, and then I got to be in. I don't. Have you ever heard of West Elm?
Yes.
It's a furniture store. I got to be in their catalog.
Oh,
One summer, their summer catalog, and it was in a spread. They chose 7 people out of 40,000 people in Etsy or something like that to be in this catalog, and I was one of them. But I was very naive in a way. I had pieces. What it was is online they have a button on their site that went directly to me,
oh,
and
right. Nice.
I had original pieces to sell, but I didn't have prints of the piece that was in the catalog. Okay, and if I had that, I would have really, you know, I would have probably made a lot of money because there was a
Right.
lot of hits. And they came, and I did sell a few originals that way, but it would have been a lot better if I'd had those prints. And I just was so new in the business, I didn't have that together at all. You know?
Right. And
And
probably
I
didn't
actually,
even really think about it when you put it in the catalog that, that
right.
probably wasn't even a thought.
Then later they were supposed to return the piece, but then they told me they had lost it. Right. So somebody lifted the piece and took it home. So I had to, and like, I should have charged them 3 or 4 times the amount that was, but no, I charged them a regular amount. You know, I mean, I was kind of naive about stuff, you know. But that happened, and then I got some commissions through Etsy.
Nice.
So that was a really good experience. You know, I have some pieces in the Theatrical Union of New York City's Teamsters new boardroom. I had to do a commission for her for that.
Nice.
So you know,
And it's being
and
seen,
so,
and it was
you know,
paid for.
I'm not religious. I mean, organized religious, but I believe in God. And I was thinking, well, if God brought me these things, because they came out of nowhere. I mean, they really did.
Right.
The opportunities. I thought, well, what would happen if I put energy into it?
Right.
You know, I mean, here I didn't put any energy into it. I got this. Well, so that's kind of motivated me to go into this thing. And when I moved back out to California, I said to myself, okay, I had you know, gotten divorced. I mean, big changes. I said, I'm not gonna even look for a job for a year. All I'm gonna do is paint. I'm gonna invest in myself. I'm gonna just
Good.
paint. And I called it my year of living dangerously. And
Mm.
I actually set up a Facebook page for it. And I was going to do this year, and I wasn't going to do anything. Well, it turned into many years. So I'm living my years of living dangerously right now.
So why did you, I mean, I can imagine why you didn't get out of that, right? But did you at any point after that year go, okay, my year's up, so now I'm gonna look, or did the time just pass and you're so into just doing what you were doing and had gotten accustomed to living that way that you were okay with it?
Yeah, that's basically what happened. another thing that happened too was I took some pieces and framed them. I spent some money. I took some money and I framed like about 7 pieces, and I didn't have a place to put them. But from my thinking was, if I frame them, I'm going to find a place, and they're going to be ready to go someplace.
Right.
And I'm going to find a place to put these, and that's what happened. Instead of waiting to get in someplace and then framing them, and then doing that, I did it ahead of time, and that kind of got things going.
Right, because you put some intention behind it, right? Because you have an expectation of, I'm going to produce a finished work, a framed work, so that it will be ready when the door, opens.
Right. And I started working in San Luis Obispo County, and I got involved with the museum, and I got involved with the arts of San Luis Obispo, and they had a program for a while. I don't know if they have it now, where local businesses could have their places decorated by different artists, and then they would switch it out every 3 months or something like that.
Satellite galleries. Right.
Well, I participated in that. So I was trying to, wherever you go, the people start to know your name a little bit, and go do that kind of thing. And so I did that for a while, and I've shown in a lot of the restaurants in San Luis Obispo, and it's been a real good experience. And I do my work pretty much always on 23 by 30 paper. So I buy frames. I have them framed, and then I switch them out.
Oh yeah.
So it's a standard frame, so I'm switching them out. So I'm not going out and buying new frames every time I got something, going on.
Right.
Because they're pretty much the same size.
Right. That's smart.
Yeah. So that kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. But your pieces in the slow gallery, because they're that textured, framing is not a part of that.
I got some on Dick Blick. I ordered some frames recently that are some of those black frames in those. There's 2 types of frames in there. One of them is lesser than the other. The final ones I got are expensive frames, but they make those things pop. They really do. And they have to be framed, because if you see them when they're not, they're kind of like, well, what's this? But you put them in a frame, that black frame, and boom, they make a point. They kind of show that there's something.
Right.
I did sell something there recently.
Yay.
Yeah, one of my pieces. It's on canvas, 12 by 12 inch by 12 inch piece. So that was a first there.
How long have you been there?
About 3 months.
Okay.
And I associated with Roger, is a friend of mine, the guy that ran it before
the gallery.
The co-op took over. And so I was in his gallery in Cambria with my paintings.
Oh, okay.
Before he moved to San Luis Obispo and started doing that. But I was hoping that, I guess, I am capitalistic. I do want to make money at these things. I can't say I don't. And I was trying to get, with this new stuff, I'm trying to get interest in that type of thing in order to make some money.
Right.
But I like the way they look too.
Do you feel like your art has evolved over the years?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's changed, and yeah, I still have there's a signature move. It's a right-handed line. It seems to show up in all my stuff, which drives me kind of crazy sometimes.
Not a doubt.
Because I want to get rid of this, so I have to turn it upside down to see if I can get rid of that thing, or I don't know, figure out some way to. Why is it always that signature right-handed?
That's funny.
That is in almost all my paintings.
That's
and
funny.
I'm going, well, am I really painting the same painting all the time? Am I working on the same problem, even though it's on all these different pieces of paper? Is it the same painting? Because I keep going this way.
Right. Well, it's just the way your body moves, it's like
Yeah.
swimming. Like you're going to swim in the same way. Your strokes, the way your hand moves, your wrist, like all of that stuff is gonna be the same. So I could see how that would happen.
I've had people say, "Oh, you're right-handed," because they can figure it out.
Turn that upside down. Now what do you think? So what do you have as advice for maybe a new artist or somebody who didn't get your opportunity to be exposed to art when you were young?
Well, I think one of the things is to find your way, like find a style, because to me it's like, there's the Rolling Stones, there's Led Zeppelin, there's Prince. Okay, they're all different styles, but you know it when you hear them. You know it's
right.
you know it, right? And that's kind of what you want. You want something that identifies. When you look at it, you can say, "Oh, that's a Waldo."
Right.
And that's what I don't know if it's been a conscious working towards that, but it's developed where I don't think there's lots of time. I mean, I think there's a distinction when, especially my paintings, but I guess my little constructions too, where you can pick it out and say,
I know who made that.
Me. And so for anybody starting out, it's to find that place that sets you apart from somebody else. It's like when you're online and you look at like Facebook or something. I belong to a couple art sites where modern art, whatever, and they show a lot of like Van Gogh, or there'll be Cézanne, or there'll be masters of the past. And you look at those, and they're not a big deal now, okay, because those guys trailblazed and they were distinctive at their time, but now everybody copies them.
Right.
There's 1,000 things that look like a Van Gogh. There's there's 1,000 things that look like a Cézanne. But when they first started out, they were breaking rules. And that's why those pieces are important. They broke the rules.
I agree.
So that to me, that's real important, to find your thing that makes you distinctive from others. Not that you have to go along with what everybody else is doing, but something that shows that you can really point it out that's who you are,
Yeah.
I have a friend, Ron Rowdy, who's another local artist, and his stuff, you can pick it out like that,
Right.
And I kind of think of that as my kind of stuff that I do. You might get it mixed up with a couple other people, but it is pretty distinctive.
Right. Yeah, that's I think
and your stuff certainly is distinctive.
Yeah, these pieces, but even as you were saying that, I was like, okay, so what about mine? So I would say my paintings aren't particularly distinctive, but my sculptures definitely are, even though I have two very different mediums. Like there is a thing. And when I was looking at this, it's all of this like random weird texture stuff, right? That kind of stuff. And I'm like, even on my sculptures, my big pieces, and the medium's totally different, it still ends up with that stuff. And I'm like, maybe that's it. Because I wouldn't have a clue. But I'm like, okay, I can see how like that definitely gives me a certain feeling and why I like it, why I'm attracted to how it looks. So I could see that being kind of a distinctive avenue for me. Like that would be
the constructs that I do that you're seeing down there, and I don't even really know what to call them. They're collages, but they're with other stuff. That comes from my printing experience. Okay?
Right.
Because when I was in printing, I did what's called collagraphs. Do you know what collagraphs are? Okay. Well, and you know what an etching is?
Yes.
Okay. Where the image is ingrained in the plate. Well, collagraphs, instead of going in, you put stuff on top.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like a piece of masonite or cardboard, and then you put other stuff on top of it and you print from that. Well, I used to do those, and I was really good at those. But some of my friends said, I like your plates better than I like your prints.
Huh.
So what happened
was, yeah.
So what I did is I took the plates and I put them on canvas. And so that's what gave me the idea for what I'm doing, is I actually, and then I started to, in a way, I color them the same way I would do a print too. What happens is I do the collage, right? I paint it all white. I paint it all black. I rub the black off. It sticks in all the crevices of the texture, and then I roll color on top of it. Well, that's how I would prepare a printing plate when I was printing it. So it all relates back to that.
Right. Interesting.
Throw that in there.
Yeah. Do you have fun doing those?
Oh yeah, I do. The craft part of it, you know, it is a little tedious sometimes, but actually it's really relaxing to do things with your hands, and I'm not thinking intellectually about some kind of image. I've already got the image, and I'm sealing all the edges, because everything
Right.
I use
Tasks.
all kinds of stuff. You know, I use sandpaper and cardboard and corn husks and you know, pieces from the eucalyptus trees and all kinds of stuff go in there. Walnut shells, rocks, sand, string, pipe cleaners, zippers, cloth. I had a thing with a local lady that does alterations, and in her fairly big alteration place, and she would save me her scraps
Nice.
in a box, and I would just pick them up, and then I could use them for my things. So I, you know, buttonholes, all kinds of things from these scraps. And specifically, the one things I really like is the lace.
Oh yeah.
It creates a really nice texture, and I can put it in the modeling paste, put it on the board,
Right.
and I use that a lot. And then kind of make it not look like what it really is.
Right. Right. Which is like that, doing those techniques with the multimedia and that I love, just how unique and different they can be. I spent 2 summers ago, I spent rebuilding my daughter's car engine. And
oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, I didn't rebuild it, but I did like take it apart and put it back together like 3 times that summer. But so I have all these car parts, and then I have some saw blades, and I have some other kinds of things that I'm like, this is art. I don't know how, but it's art. And I just wanted to get all the car pieces, like the old pieces that I used, and do something very similar to that, which is just create something. And yeah, so it's still in my head that you know, that and it's going to happen. It'll just be the moment, right? There'll be a pool to go, oh, I'm doing this. It'll probably be when I clean out the garage.
Yeah.
Right. When I gather all this stuff, and then I'm like, oh yes. And then it'll happen like that, because the momentum will be there. So.
And it'll turn into sculpture.
Yeah. Something, I don't know what it's going to be. So, but I'm like, just because first of all, I think that that's creative and unique, and I hate to throw stuff away. So like, that seems like a reasonable thing to me, is just to make a piece of art out of the car parts.
That reminds me of some of the things that are the Costa Gallery down in Los Osos has some of Ron Rowdy's sculpture in it, and he does a lot of found object stuff, you know, where he combines all kinds of things together to make a wall thing you can put on the wall. It's interesting, you know, to look at, you know, and I really like those, what he's done, you know. Yeah. It's very cool to you know, have a bunch of parts and put them together, and that's it, you know. And I think that it takes a certain type of person to do that. I think, you know, like if you handed me a piece of blank white paper, I'm not going to have a problem making a mark on it, but some people would, because and another thing is, you know, when people start out in art, is like, you know, for me, it's make sure it's fun, you know, like it's not about, you're not going to be Picasso, it's not going to be perfect, you're not going to right off the bat be a realist, at least not most of us anyway, not be a totally realistic painter. So you lower your expectations for what you're doing, and have fun doing it. That's kind of what it's about, you know, and not be so critical of yourself to start out. You know, let
Right.
yourself have some movement or leeway or room, you know.
Grace, just a little bit of
Yeah,
grace,
right. Give
right?
yourself a break on it, you know,
Yeah.
and just let yourself do another one or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's probably one of the big areas of transition in my art that has happened for me, is that I've just given myself more freedom to try. I don't know, I got these car parts. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to them or how it's going to work out, but I'm willing to try.
Yeah,
Like, I'm willing to try. They're trash right now. So if it doesn't work, then it's just trash. Like, it doesn't make any difference to me. So, but the effort or the process of trying, of imagining, I think is super valuable.
and then you get to learn too as you go,
Right. And it's fun.
because you're you know, like with those pieces that I do, you know, maybe at first I was experimenting with the textures and the things that they are, but now I know what they'll do. Now I know how they'll look. You know, now I know how, when I put the cardboard on there and I tear it and I make it so it doesn't look, you know, I know what that's going to look like. So
Right.
you know, you learn and progress, and the techniques that you use, you begin to get more of a grasp on, even though they're really random things, you know, like sandpaper and twigs and whatever, you know, zippers.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All kinds of texture there and movement. Like,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Very good. All right. Do you have any last words?
Well, let's see. Boy, last words. Last words.
Conclusion words, not last words. That sounds
Conclusion words.
a little morbid.
Well, yeah. Well, my name's Kurt Waldo, and I'm an artist.
Yay! That's perfect.
Or what we used to say in college was, "Baby, I'm a fine artiste. Baby, I deserve to be kissed."
That's great.
How's
Perfect.
that? Huh?
That's
Anyway,
perfect.
thank
Yeah.
you for the interview, and I look forward to watching it once you cut out all the bad stuff. Huh?
I don't know. I end up keeping a lot of, because I feel like to edit pieces out in the middle like ruins the flow of the conversation. So so I feel like that's a little bit challenging for me. So I usually will edit little bits out, but not much.
Well,
So
it's nice having a conversation with an artist. You know, you're
it
an artist
is.
yourself.
I
You
know.
know,
I have so much fun.
that's
I
pretty
learned so much
cool.
from everybody.